Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. So everything one big, beautiful, disgusting abomination, devastating, insane bill that Donald Trump has come up with. And those are some of the words that Elon Musk has spoken about. So today is going to be concentrated towards that very same thing, the one big, beautiful bill, and some of the things, inflammatory things that Elon Musk has stated and how this may affect Tesla along with immigration. Now, Trump warns of a whopping 68 tax increase if the Senate fails. He's stating that if this bill is not passed, then there's going to be a 68 tax increase. And President Trump slammed the Senate, warning that without passage of his one big beautiful bill, also known as the OBBBA, that Americans face what he calls the largest tax hike in history, a massive 68% jump. He describes the bill as granting the largest tax cuts and broader security ever, but insisted failure to act means serious consequences. And this warning came during a marathon vote-a-rama on the Senate floor, underscoring GOP urgency, even as cliffhanger margins leave the bill hanging by a handful of votes. The measure aims to extend Trump's era tax cuts and fund border security, but critics cite its nearly 3.3 trillion addition to the national debt. So we're going to be at supposedly 40.3 trillion dollars within our national debt. But again, I'm gonna give you guys a very insightful breakdown of the one big beautiful bill and some of the meat and potatoes that I think you guys should be informed about. Now, the next story here is about J.D. Vance because he arrived at the Capitol. And he's the vice president, if you guys haven't been aware. And a lot of times vice presidents don't really get the notoriety or the publicity that they deserve. Because Vance arrived at the Capitol as the GOP falls short on Trump's mega bill votes. He arrived at the Capitol amid intense debate, likely posed to cast a tie-breaking vote if Republicans can only muster 50 senators. That type math illustrates how politically fragile that the mega bill prospects really are. And senators such as Rand Paul and Thom Tillis are already in opposition of this one big beautiful bill. The GOP can afford no more than 3 defections to pass the measure by simple majority under reconciliation rules. Basically, all this is stating that if they don't have enough votes, then J.D. Vance will essentially vote, and hopefully that will put them over to have this bill to be passed, because it seems though that people on the left and the right do not want this bill to be passed. So again, as the economy is looking at this, there are some bakes that are stating that this could work. Several financial institutions have signaled that the bill's sweeping tax relief and deregulation elements could inject real growth into the U.S. economy. Despite warnings over rising deficit, analysts point to potential benefits such as job gains and stronger domestic investment. Yet concerns remain that the Congressional Budget Office and independent observers forecast steep deficits and increased uninsured rates under the package. So again, this is kind of back and forth. This is sort of a 50-50. No one really knows what this one big beautiful bill would do once it's enacted, once it is passed. But some of the hallmarks of the bill are stating that the economy would tank, that we will raise over $3 trillion in the national deficit. And others say, no, this will save America. This will prevent 68% throughout the economy from rising. So again, the way we look at this, how does this affect certain people? How does it affect no other than the richest man in the world? Because I don't know if you guys are aware, and I have Tesla shares myself, okay, just been a sound investor. Tesla shares plunged roughly 5 to 6% in their pre-market trading, erasing billions in market value tied to the escalating public feud between President Trump and Elon Musk. And the tensions stem from Trump's threat to review or eliminate federal subsidies to Tesla and SpaceX. And I'm pretty sure they have some contracts when it comes to the Boring Company. And that's the company that he makes all sorts of different technologies, as well as one of the tunneling machines that he's using to tunnel under California to make traffic lighter. It's a new network of where you can drive your Tesla cars through, and maybe other cars as well, as long as they're electric to a certain degree. But nonetheless, this is affecting Tesla in some regards, and we're going to touch on that a little bit later. But the tension stemmed from Trump's threat to review, eliminate those federal subsidies to Tesla and SpaceX, and even possibly the Boring Company. And a move Musk harshly condemned. Musk also decried the mega bills as utterly insane and destructive. And that goes against, or excuse me, it coincides with some of his earlier comments that it is a disgusting abomination. And he's threatening primary challenges to lawmakers who supported it. Analysts warned that the feud poses material, regulatory, and political risk to Tesla's future. That is why the richest man in the world, aka Elon Musk, is upset and mad that Daddy Trump, is signing this one big beautiful bill. So while Trump is smiling, Elon Musk is probably trying to figure out how to pivot or to continue the profits of Tesla altogether. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. This hasn't gotten too much publicity. This hasn't really reached a lot of the headlines. But law enforcement agencies across the U.S. have made multiple arrests of civilians posing as ICE agents, some carrying loaded guns and fake DHS credentials. Experts warn that ICE use of plainclothes and mass uniforms has made it easier for imposters to mimic agents, raising serious public safety concerns. And even if they wasn't masked, and even if they were in plain clothes, you can buy a lot of this clothing, because if you especially live in California, they have stores all through California where you can buy, uniforms and things of that nature, because you're in a movie or a picture, or you some sort of director. You have access to equipment in some regards, may not be real, but definitely the clothing and uniforms of a lot of our law enforcement agencies, just because of the movie world. And if not, guess what? You can always print up some things, go online and have different companies to make these uniforms for you. Just give them, the details of the clothing items, the size, what you want printed on it, how you want it to be printed. And you can basically give them a picture of an authorized uniform and have them print out. So there's many ways that people can impersonate police officers, law enforcement, etc. Now, I wonder why these citizens are doing this. Why are these citizens faking as if they are ICE agents? Why they are impersonating ICE agents? And they're standing beside official ICE agents, and they're standing beside official National Guard. It's as if these citizens now want to help ICE agents in deporting illegal immigrants. But of course, eventually you're going to get caught. There's going to be an ICE agent that comes to you. Hey, what's going on, brother? What chapter are you from? What precinct are you from? Where are you head out of? Are you out of the California office, the Texas office, the Idaho office? They're going to ask you all these questions, just chatting you up, right? Law enforcement and military go hand in hand. And being a 20-year vet of Marines and Army, you're always asking where someone's stationed, what's your MOS, what some of the missions you've been on, some of the things that you're certified in. You have some of these talks, right? And then other talks go a little bit deeper. If you have a secret clearance versus a top secret clearance versus the SCI clearance, there's all these different clearances of information. As long as that person was on that mission, they had official paperwork, you guys can essentially have a very light conversation about some of the things that you have done. And in some regards, some of the training and real missions you've been on. So again, eventually these people were going to get caught. But I think the big question is now that we know we have fake ICE agents out there, what are going to be the repercussions? What are they going to be charged with? Are they going to get a hand slap like you bad Americans? You bad Americans. We know that you want to jump in and help, but there's training and there's background screening and there's all these things you need to do to become an official ICE agent. But you just want to throw on a uniform and degrade it to a certain degree. See, in my opinion, if somebody is faking as a military member, as a military personnel or law enforcement personnel, to me, it degrades those people who had to go through all those tests, all those evaluations, all that training, and you can just jump on in your uniform and act. That's what these guys are. They're skilled actors because they're just, they're kind of just looking at the behavior and interaction. And some of these guys were either prior law enforcement or prior military. Then they know the lingo. There are certain words and certain structures of sentence that military and law enforcement have. And if you can mimic that, you can kind of blend in to a certain degree, but only for a short while, because as these conversations get a little bit deeper, they're going to find out there's a little couple red flags with this guy right here. So we don't know if he's official. Check his credentials. And do not forget, a lot of these people had fake DHS IDs. And again, if you're not skilled in looking at IDs, like if I looked at somebody's military ID, of course, I've been looking at it for a long time, but I'm not looking for it to be fake. So if you're not looking for something to be fake and you're just looking at his ID, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, Jim over there, he's a good guy. He's out of the Idaho office. We got people from Idaho out here? We have a small chapter in Idaho. There's only 5 people there. I guess Jim is new, and they're going to check your credentials, and eventually you're going to get caught. Eventually they're going to get caught. But there's more than meets the eye here, because I do want to talk about no other than the one big, beautiful bill that Elon Musk does not like. Elon Musk do not like the big, beautiful bill at all. So let's jump right into the big picture and what it does. It makes permanent the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, locking in lower marginal rates and expanded standard deductions. It eliminates taxes on tips, taxes on overtime, and auto loan interest. No more taxes. It adds new benefits, a $6,000 senior deduction, boosted child tax credits, and opportunity zone incentives. So more money for people in those opportunity zones where you can start to build revenue and build businesses, etc. It boosts the child tax credits. That's a good thing, right? A $6,000 senior deduction, so seniors will get more on their returns. And then again, it eliminates those taxes that you guys receive when you work overtime. So now you're getting all your overtime pay, and now you're getting all your tip money and not being taxed, as well as eliminating taxes on auto loan, which everybody loves a new car. And in some regards, I know you guys, you like your used cars. It's a used new car, right? Low mileage, no less. So who's the winners in this? Top earners and business owners see massive permanent tax savings. We're talking about 4 trillion tax cuts over 10 years. The middle class families touted in the White House messaging as getting $10,000 net household benefit annually. So it's going to help the middle class. And majority of Americans, and the majority, especially foundational Black Americans, we are in the middle class. So could this assist us? And then traditional energy and mining sectors, along with rural America and Main Street businesses, due to deregulation, full expensing, and weakened clean energy policy. So he's rolling back a lot of these regulations that prevented the growth of America, supposedly, allegedly. And if you have winners, there's always losers. And who are those losers? Medicaid, SNAP, and low-income Americans. 1 to 1.2 trillion in cuts. Stricter work requirements. Don't forget about those work requirements. Eligibility limits predicted to strip insurance from 12 million people by 2034. Green energy sector. Removal or curtailment of Biden-era credits could shutter clean energy projects, especially in Texas, which will risk 120,000 jobs. Also, you have fiscal health concerns. CBO estimate indicates a $3.3 trillion to $4 trillion deficit increase over the next decade. And when we look at the economic impact, whether it be progress or decline, let's look at some of the pros and cons of this. You have the economic growth, and the pros with that are the proponents claim wage boosts, investments, and job creation. And the cons, the CBO projects little GDP growth and that the deficit will expand and you will have uncertain multiplier effects. What about inequality? The pros are tax relief aimed at the working class, and that's the middle class. And then the cons are regressive structures, vast gains for the wealthy. Of course, you always got to make the rich richer, marginal gains for the rest. When it comes to public services, the pro, claim fraud reduction in welfare programs, and the con is real world impact, cuts to healthcare, nutrition, rural hospitals, and education. And when it comes to the energy transition, the pro, short-term security for oil and gas sectors, and the con, delayed clean energy development and innovation. It's almost like we're trying to get away from green energy, clean energy, renewable energy, whatever type of energy other than oil, okay, that made a lot of Rockefellers rich and a lot of others. But nonetheless, it seems as though we're trying to return back to quote unquote fossil fuels. Now, as it pertains to good old Elon Musk, Elon Musk have been very critical of this bill because when we look at the EV subsidy slash, the bill phases out Biden era electric vehicle and clean energy credits that Tesla critically depends on. And Musk warned it jeopardized future industries and pledged to oppose lawmakers who support it. And when it pertains to the broadband spectrum and wireless perks, while the telecom sector benefits from spectrum tax provisions, electric and sustainable sectors lose traction. And Musk Gronk AI might benefit slightly from deregulated wireless access, but clean energy retreat rings loud. Again, Elon Musk is all in the clean energy because of his electric vehicles. And when it pertains to SpaceX and the Boring Company, direct effects are minimum, and the act contains no NASA or infrastructure-specific funding expansion. However, long-term macroeconomic instability and reduced R&D investment may indirectly constrain innovation. So Musk is seeing a rollback of all the government subsidies, all the government contracts under the Biden era that he received. Now, you would think that Elon Musk was supportive Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris is going to keep a lot of things that Joe Biden has done in contract. But he went against the grain. He thought that President Trump was the best thing for America, and now he's reeling from that. And when it pertains to, illegal immigration and, fake ICE officers and the one big beautiful bill, we have to look at it how it pertains to border security and the hardcore expansion therein, because billions are allocated for wall construction. He's going to finish the wall and not just repairs. Trump wants new mileage laid down along southern borders. He wants to finish this border wall. He's going to expand border patrol funding and ICE personnel in detention facilities. And with all with all the fake ICE officers, he already has his recruits. We're talking about almost 100-something people faking as ICE officers. There you go. Hopefully they're physical fit and they're competent so they can pass some of the tests. But it also enables faster deportation protocols under this one big beautiful bill. We're talking about expedited removals and dramatically reduces asylum claim windows. See, we're no longer going to have economic asylum, right? Oh, I'm a refugee. I'm fearing political prosecution from my country. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're over here for economic opportunities. And that's why everybody's protesting in the streets about it. They're also going to have new biometric surveillance tech mandated at all entry and exit points when you're crossing in and out of the border, including facial recognition at airports and border crossings. I absolutely love it. I think this is a good thing. If this is part of the big beautiful bill, I'm not stating that I love or I like all the one big beautiful bill, but there are certain parts of this one big beautiful bill that I'm cheerleading over. I'm copping my hands over, because this technology, being the most powerful and richest country in the world, this should have already been implemented into the process. When I go over to Japan, when I go over to Korea, when I go over to all these other countries, when you're walking through immigration, they have facial recognition, they have your heat signature, they have all this advanced technology that America has, but we were never using it because people were crying about their privacy. Would in the hell are you hiding? See, here's my thing. Oh, well, when you drive past the Pentagon, when you drive past the White House, when you drive past the Capitol, they have listening devices and they're listening on your conversation. Okay. What possibly could you be talking about that will alarm federal agents to come and detain you, to come and apprehend you? What are you talking about? You're talking about cheating on your husband, on your wife? They don't care. If you're talking about creating or trying to make a bomb, then we should care. All Americans should care. See, again, we're talking about this privacy thing, and I know you guys read the book just as well as I did, and I might get the wrong. I believe it was either 1984 or 1987, that George Orwell book. Basically, that Big Brother is watching you. That means the government, of course. Of course. And nobody wants to be infringed on their privacy, but here's the thing. If you want privacy, you have an apartment, you have a condo, you have a house, you have a trailer, just don't have any cameras in it. And that way they can't tap into it. Don't have no webcams. Delete the app software for your phone. You know, get a one of those jitterbug phones. I don't know. As long as they don't have GPS. But again, I wonder what a lot of people are talking about security and privacy. I wonder what people are hiding. I digress. But immigration caps and visa cuts and pertains to this one big beautiful bill because it slashes legal immigration quotas, especially employment-based visas, those H-1B and those EB categories, and family reunification programs and diversity visas. This means that people can no longer be tethered or anchored in our country. And we talked about this extensively because it also aims to eliminate birthright citizenship via reinterpretation of the 14th Amendment pending Supreme Court backing, because President Trump said itself, and I showed this video clip many a times, that the 14th Amendment was meant for enslaved Black people, okay? Those who were here that was released and freed, and their babies and their children for to be citizens, not for people to come over and sneak through a fence and touch the soil and ta-da, I'm a citizen. Or I flew in on a work visa, I flew in on a student visa, or I snuck in through the border, or I snuck in through the northern border through Canada, because we do have people who sneak in from Canada as well. It's not just through Mexico. And again, these illegal immigrants come from all over the world. When it comes to Europe, mostly Eastern Europe, okay, you have those, you have Russians and all other, Ukrainian, Belarusians, all these other people. Asia, like India as well, China. I'm just giving you some of the main culprits. Africa, the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and Mexico. And they come here and they use certain legislation, DACA and others, that anchored and tethered the parents because they had a baby here. So again, your baby is a legal immigrant, or U.S. citizen, rather. Your baby is a U.S. citizen, but you are an illegal immigrant. Everything, and people from a humanitarian standpoint may not agree with this, but the baby that's inside of your womb, as you are over here illegally, you're mean to tell me that you have something that's legal if it's born in this country, but you are illegal? Shouldn't all of you guys be illegally in the country? And I know it's very tough, very sensitive topic when we're talking about babies and families. I understand. But again, our laws in America are not moral and they're not ethical. It's just the law. You're either breaking the law or you are upholding the law. And that's just what it is. Now, it also tightens work visa scrutiny, demanding stricter vetting of sponsored companies and even college OPT programs. Because when these people come over here on these work programs, when they come over here on these student visas, guess what they do? They vanish. They disappear into our economy. No one really asks them to solidify their visa status or their immigration status or their resident status. These companies just hire them. Oh, you have the certification in cybersecurity. Great. We need somebody like that. Come on. And when it pertains to employer penalties and E-Verify mandate, it requires nationwide mandatory use of E-Verify. which I'm a component of. I think that's a good thing. An electronic system that it aims to confirm legal work status. Okay. And again, this is going to support Americans because employers who hire illegal immigrants, they face steep civil and criminal penalties as they should. A move to gut under the table labor markets. You know, when we look at the sector, and again, I'm for legal immigration to a certain degree, because even legal immigration to a certain degree harms Black Americans, because we were doing a lot of these retail, construction, plumber, electrician, all these blue collar jobs, working at the manufacturer, working at up in Detroit, all these factories that we were prominently in that we're no longer in. We're no longer in. And then a lot of people, when it pertains to history, for some reason, even though Black Americans were already here prior to these other groups, and we're talking about the Anglos. We were here with the Anglos building this country from the ground up. The first railroad, the first roads, the first houses, the first bridges, the first everything. But then they tell us, oh, no, you guys didn't build the railroad. That was the Chinese. Oh, okay. We didn't build the first railroad in the Eastern Seaboard. Okay. From north to south. Okay. You guys didn't build none of the skyscrapers. The Italians did that. And before first it currently is the Hispanics, mostly Mexicans. And then before that, it was the Italians. And before the Italians, it was the Germans. Whoa, wait a minute. So who built the Capitol? Yeah, we saw a couple of Negroes working on the Capitol in the White House. Yeah, you guys probably built that. We built the very infrastructure that America stands on. So what are you talking about? And then the massive amount of wealth that people are telling Black people that have dissipated, it has been erased. You mean to tell me for over 250 years that a country has been operating with free labor, they didn't have to pay anything, and they took that money and they reinvested into new companies and new industries, and that money has dissipated? No, we're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars that was accumulated during slavery. What in the heck are people talking about? Money doesn't disappear. Money is reinvested. That is why you can leave a house to your children. You put it in a trust so you can really wipe away and decrease the amount of the taxes. And if your grandfather in, there's some people who had land that still don't pay taxes. So again, it's circumstantial, but I think people need to do a little more research when they say certain things, because it doesn't make any sense. Money doesn't disappear, guys. It just reinvents itself. Now, when it pertains to immigration and the Musk machine, good old Elon Musk. Yeah, we got to touch on it, because if we connect this immigration policy under the One Big Beautiful Bill with Elon Musk companies like Tesla, which relies on global talent for engineering, software, battery innovation, many of the H-1B BVs and international research visas, those visas are going to be capped, which will hurt his recruitment of getting these very technological people from all these other different countries. See, and this is about incentivizing Americans. We should really be pushing our kids in STEM or STEAM or cyber electronics, robotics, whatever you want to call it. And our son, my son, 14, I told him, I said, son, right now he's only been reading books with mechanical engineering, and he also wants to be an aviator. He wants to be a pilot. So I'm pushing them into industries where I know that we're going to need people. And again, even though we can have automation, AI, we can have robots to build certain things, you're always going to need certain people in designated engineering fields. You're going to need someone to fix the equipment. Oh, they just build a robot to fix it. We're not there yet. We're probably about 20 years out. And so he's probably, about 6 or 7 years from the workforce. He'll be okay. Because even though we're going to have autonomous planes, you're always going to have a pilot just in case. According to FFA rules, you're always going to have at least a pilot that if anything goes haywire, they're going to have to fly that plane manually. Now, when it comes to the manufacturing plants in Texas, and this pertains to Elon Musk, and California, which is often surrounded by immigrant-heavy labor pools, stricter enforcement threatened supply chains. That is why Americans have been really boxed out the technological fields when it comes to AI, automation, robotics, computer software, computer hardware, all the IT, all these jobs surrounding technology. Most Americans have been boxed out. Believe it or not, now working for different corporations, working in different industries, you may have a white person that is the boss, but majority of the people on that team, when it comes to, let's say, the IT help desk, in my experience, have mostly been Indian or from some sort of Asian descent. So they have literally cornered the market. And I'm not saying that these guys are illegal, but a lot of them are immigrants. How does that hurt Americans? How does that hurt foundational Black Americans? Because we can have the same certifications, we can have the same degrees, but again, they're taking a less of pay. See, when it comes to America, we value a living wage. If a job is only the minimum wage in that area is only, let's say, $12 an hour. But the job say, well, we're only paying $7 an hour. Well, we're not going to devalue ourselves to work extra hard and extremely hard to try to make a living wage. No, America was built on a living wage. America was actually built on one paycheck should be able to pay your mortgage, to pay your card note, and buy groceries. But now both people or three people or four people have to work in order to, I won't just say in order to make ends meet, but to live a comfortable life. Now, when you have a mass amount of immigrants and a mass amount of illegal immigrants, they depress wages, but they're living 10, 15 people to a house. So of course they can afford it. America's not built on that. We have a lot of land and slowly decreasing because all of the housing and things that they're building, but nonetheless, the American dream was what? A house, 2 cars, maybe a car, a boy and a girl. Those things are slowly slipping away. Back on Elon Musk with SpaceX, because he's even more reliant on high clearance and foreign talent, whether it be Tesla or SpaceX. And national security rules require U.S. citizenship for most roles. But cutting legal immigration pipelines weakens the innovation pipeline Elon Musk depends on. Because here's the thing, right? If we say in certain positions that immigrants, no matter your status, cannot have that job because of the information that's provided, especially with a country like SpaceX, they can, they can garner and steal space technology and give to their home country or give to another country, whoever the highest bidder is. So they want U.S. citizenship because what they're basically stating is that most of us, not all, because we've had traders, right? We had inside traders, we've had traders to sell sensitive information to other countries. But at least being a U.S. citizenship is one of the first, barriers that people have to go through in order to work in some of these positions when it pertains to space. But somehow he's gotten around that by maybe changing a couple of the titles, some of the descriptions of the jobs, but they're basically still doing the jobs that usually require you to be a U.S. citizen, a secret clearance, and other things. What about Gronk? What about Neuralink? When it pertains to artificial intelligence companies, especially Gronk AI, they actually thrive on diverse global input. Mostly people with PhDs and ML engineers from India, China, and Europe, no less. But again, whatever happened to empowering and motivating U.S. citizens? Incentivizing. We have all this money for immigration, whether illegal or legal, billions of dollars of housing and sheltering and feeding and subsidies and grants so people can come to our country versus incentivizing our high school students and offer them free courses and giving them free grants and low interest loan or zero interest loans. Whatever happened to that? Because this one big beautiful bill, hardline stance, may starve these firms of the brain power they need just when the global AI arms race is heating up. And then the boring company, because Elon Musk, believe it or not, has a lot of companies, and The boring company is not as popular than that, but again, just being an investor, you come across a lot of information. And when it comes to the boring company, immigration restrictions, labor audits, that's going to equal more delays and higher costs in urban tunneling projects that mostly has been occurring in California. And the output of that means fewer projects, longer timelines, and bigger bills. You know what that tells me? Higher Americans. Just higher Americans. And when it comes to Black Americans, the one big beautiful bill doesn't include wage protections or federal guarantees to hire American citizens first. Because again, if we look at the economics in America and you say, well, you know, when it comes to Black people as a general, majority of Black women are going to college, but the rate of Black men has increased slightly, but a lot of them are, you know, a lot of them have a high school diploma. But if we don't protect wages, that we're going to stand by the minimum wage and we're going to hire American citizens first, then there's still no incentives of the working class that have always been the working class of America before a mass amount of illegal and legal immigration. So I guess when I look at this, there are some drawbacks to the bill, but I wonder if the bill overall is beneficial. Because if we're talking about cutting Medicaid and SNAP, I think that's going to affect a lot of Americans. And I don't just mean Black Americans, because again, majority of Americans who are on welfare, you can look at the numbers yourself, guys, are white. And I'm not trying to make this a racial thing, but I'm just giving you guys the demographics because it's going to affect Americans as a whole. So when it comes to this one big beautiful bill, I'm still in the middle. I'm somewhat indifferent about this. I just want the best for America. And then last but not least, I just want to touch on this because a lot of people have been talking about this. That the US is facing a declining birth rate and a very aging workforce. And a lot of them are saying that slashing immigration now is like sawing off your economic leg while trying to sprint into the future. And that this bill fails to offer a real plan to replace immigrant labor with trained Americans. It simply cuts off the supply. Well, I can tell you that we can at least replace around 2 million of illegal immigrants. Now, granted, I might have to cut that number in half, 1.5 million, because we have almost 2 million homeless people in America. And about half of them probably suffer from some sort of mental illness. But I would like to believe at least 1 million or 1.25 million of them could be rehabilitated. And there you go. That's another large workforce that we can disseminate and spread out throughout America. Why are we not taking these billions of dollars to shelter the people who are unsheltered and motivate them and train them and make them prosperous citizens of our country? Again, the most powerful country and richest country in the world as a collaborative group. And people are talking about, what about all the innovations and inventions that immigrants bring? Look at the cryptology during the war. Ladies and gentlemen, I really want you guys, if you care, to do research on all the inventions of white Americans, Black Americans, Asian Americans who have been here since the 1800s. And then you will see all the achievement that Americans have made throughout the globe. And I will answer most of your questions. Some people are going to state that the one big beautiful bill doesn't fix immigration, that it weaponizes it, that it treats immigration as a political prop while stripping out the nuance, the labor, economics, and the human capital that powers the U.S. innovation engine. That's what a lot of people are going to say but in some regards, I won't say in some regards, I would say the regard, it simply hurts American workers. And most importantly, you know who it really hurts? it really hurts Elon Musk. Does it hurt the Black community? Well, I think the Senate is still loud. I think they're still voting on it. And I'm very indifferent about if it hurts us or not. There are some tangible, legible things within the bill that I can see that could be detrimental to certain groups in America. But for it to affect all Americans as a whole, to be derogatory and negative, I'm not there yet. I've read through the bill a couple of times, and I can see the benefit, and I can also see the drawbacks. So with that being said, I thank you guys for joining me here this morning. You guys have a great and wonderful day. This is Blacklogic.